Good morning, folks. Let's circle up.
Thank you, Joey. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Call them out.
Trying to let everyone get settled. All right. So, yes, we're going to open up with back half of Acts 21 this morning. But before we get started with that, we'll open up the floor for prayers and praise. No news is good news. So,
Yeah, he just on our prayer list, a guy I work with, his name is Tanner,
mm-hmm.
and he's probably 33, just had a kid, and they have found that he has cancer in his neck, thyroid cancer. And it's been there for about 3 years. He just had a knot that was bothering him, and he wouldn't go to the doctor. So it sounds like it's pretty far advanced. So pray for him and his family.
Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am. Of course. And if that's all, Rodney, would you mind opening us in prayer this morning?
Father, I know there's not, as you do, there's not a single person, certainly in this room, that does not have prayer needs. And for whatever reason, including my own, that they're not mentioned. I don't know if it's a matter of my disobedience, Lord, or my doubts or my fears, or just my regard for other people that need my prayers, that I don't mention them and bring them up. Whatever reason, Lord, the needs are there. Sin entered in, and with it sickness and death. Both sickness and death. And not that the sins of these people, the cancer of this gentleman, is a result of his individual sin, but the cancer is a result of sin in a world broken. Lord, we turn to you because you are the one with the answer. You're the only one with the answer. You're the only hope any of us have. No matter how healthy we are, no matter how prosperous we may be, sin leads to death and illness. And the only solution is Jesus Christ and his healing and his resurrection. Father, we turn to you with specific needs like this cancer and unspoken needs that we all have. And plead with you that your throne of grace will have mercy on us. In your name I pray.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Did we adjust this just a bit? There we go. Think that's better? Still hear me? All right. Okay. So, as I said, we're going through the book of Acts. Had multiple different teachers bring us so far. Now I get to teach Acts 21 through 24. Last week we had covered the first half of Acts 21, which was Paul continuing to make his way back to Jerusalem in time for Pentecost with with an offering for the church at Pentecost that he had collected from the other churches that he had previously been on multiple missionary trips to. So, I'm just going to go ahead and read the passage starting with verse 17 in Acts 21. We'll read through the rest of the passage, and then I'll present my notes and we'll discuss. When we had come to Jerusalem, the brothers received us gladly. On the following day, Paul went in with us to James, and all the elders were present. After greeting them, he related one by one the things that God had done among the Gentiles through his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified God. And they said to him, "You see, brother, how many thousands there are among the Jews of those who have believed. They are all zealous for the law. And they have been told about you, that you teach all the Jews who are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, telling them not to circumcise their children or walk according to our customs. What then is to be done? They will certainly hear that you have come. Do therefore what we tell you. We have 4 men who are under a vow. Take these men and purify yourself along with them, and pay their expenses, so that they may shave their heads. Thus all will know that there is nothing in what they have been told about you, but that you yourself also live in observance of the law. But as for the Gentiles who have believed, we have sent a letter with our judgment that they should abstain from what has been sacrificed to idols, and from blood, and from what has been strangled, and from sexual immorality." Then Paul took the men, and the next day he purified himself along with them, and went into the temple, giving notice when the days of purification would be fulfilled, and the offering presented for each one of them. When the 7 days were almost completed, the Jews from Asia, seeing him in the temple, stirred up the whole crowd and laid hands on him, crying out, "Men of Israel, help! This is the man who is teaching everyone, everywhere, against the people and the law and this place. Moreover, he even brought Greeks into the temple and has defiled this holy place." For they had previously seen Trophimus the Ephesian with him in the city, and they supposed that Paul had brought him into the temple. Then all the city was stirred up, and the people ran together. They seized Paul and dragged him out of the temple, and at once the gates were shut. And as they were seeking to kill him, the word came to the tribune of the cohort that all Jerusalem was in confusion. He at once took soldiers and centurions and ran down to them. And when they saw the tribune and the soldiers, they stopped beating Paul. Then the tribune came up and arrested him and ordered him to be bound with 2 chains. He inquired who he was and what he had done. Some in the crowd were shouting one thing, some another. And as he could not learn the facts because of the uproar, he ordered him to be brought into the barracks. And when he came to the steps, he was actually carried by the soldiers because of the violence of the crowd. For the mob of the people followed, crying out, "Away with him." As Paul was about to be brought into the barracks, he said to the tribune, "May I say something to you?" And he said, "Do you know Greek? Are you not the Egyptian then who recently stirred up a revolt and led the 4,000 men of the assassins out into the wilderness?" Paul replied, "I am a Jew from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no obscure city. I beg you, permit me to speak to the people." And when he had been given permission, Paul, standing on the steps, motioned with his hand to the people, and there was a great hush, and he addressed them in the Hebrew language. Sorry, I back out of my notes again. So, yes, we start off this passage with Paul having made it to Jerusalem. We got to that at the end of the last passage, with him making it safely. But then it reiterates, said that he's received gladly, which, again, this is Paul, the same man who his life was once hunting down Christians, but that was 20 years past. So if there are any hard feelings, it's not related to us here in the passage. Also, and Paul, of course, being genuine with bringing his offering to the church in Jerusalem from the other churches. And then, of course, he speaks with James, which I will note, I was at first thinking was James the Apostle because it doesn't specify. I know Dr. Sproul says he believes it was actually James the Less, James the brother of Jesus, but he's just a member, a name we know that is on this Council of Elders here in Jerusalem. And then Paul gives the report of his ministry, talking about how well the Gentiles have received the word. And of course, there's rejoicing about that. Again, we've heard earlier in Acts that there was a lot of doubt and confusion in regards to the Gentiles being brought into the fold, but we can see forward progress in the fact that that very much is the case and is being accepted. And then the elders talked to Paul about, again, I will note at first, I was a little confused by the passage. I thought that these rumors about Paul were being spread by people that weren't believers, but of course, listening to commentaries and reading the passage closer, no, it is the fact that there absolutely are believers in the church that are, if they didn't start, then they are most certainly spreading these misconceptions about Paul, saying that he's telling Jews, diaspora Jews, Jews that are no longer inside Jerusalem, he's telling them to forsake Moses and cultural laws and observances like circumcision and other things. And of course, we know that's not the case. We know that Paul and his ministry has absolutely, just like we're told elsewhere in the world, elsewhere in the Word, any place he went to the synagogue first, he went to the Jew first, and then to the Gentile. And I know Sproul in particular uses the term, sorry, I'm talking a little bit fast, tripping over my words. He says, Paul himself said, amongst Jews, I was a Jew. He wasn't speaking against Moses or the law. And again, we know elsewhere in the Word that the law hasn't been overturned. It was once a harsh tutor to us, but now it is a companion to us. It is a reminder of the things that we need to be doing. Yes, sir.
I think you're absolutely right. It's important we understand that the Jews were devout Jews who had embraced Christ as the Messiah. They had accepted Christianity, even though it wasn't yet its own denomination.
Yes.
So they're devout Jews that are trying to keep all the Jewish rules and regulations who were believing in Christ.
Right.
So they were a little, I think it's also important, it's hard, we get lost in the time
Yes.
It's been about 25 years. Paul's been out there teaching what he's teaching, and you know these people have heard all about him. But for some reason, these devout Jews who have accepted Christ are frustrated that he's teaching against their Jewish faith.
Even if it's only to the Gentiles.
Correct.
Right. Right.
But that's in a distinction, right, that Paul made. It's not that he was teaching against Jewish customs. What he did teach against was you thinking your Jewish customs made you right with God.
Right.
Right.
He was
Exactly.
very much
Exactly.
keep the law, continue the circumcision, but don't think that these things make you right with God. It's grace alone. And that's what Paul spends Galatians and Ephesians dealing with, right?
Right.
Exactly.
It's not that he's saying don't be Jewish. He's just saying let's get this right in our head.
Right.
And so the Gentiles don't have to follow all this to be right with God.
Right.
Just like you don't have to do it to be right with God.
Correct.
Right.
In fact, what you see in chapter 18, had taken the Nazarite vow. In other words, he was still following Jewish law.
Yeah. And here
Paul
he.
himself was still following Jewish law.
Mm-hmm. And here he's doing it again, or at least purifying himself.
And he's
Yeah.
fixing to do it again, exactly.
Yeah. And also.
This a reminder of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, where he said, I've become all things to all men. To the Jews, I was a Jew, so that I may save some.
Yes.
So, yeah. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I love the discussion. And again, as we've already read, Paul also gets to hear from the elders at the church that they've sent out a letter to the Gentiles that it's, no, they don't have to hold exactly to Jewish customs, but we've sent out this letter to abstain from certain things that, apart from the sexual immorality, which is a no-go for anybody, but the other things related to what they eat in terms of blood, things sacrificed to idols, things strangled. Those were specifically laws to the Jews, and they recommended that Gentiles do it. And it was a recommendation, just so that they didn't off-put the Jews that they might be worshiping with. I know we're told elsewhere in the Word, that abstain from stuff that might make your brother stumble. That's exactly what they're telling the Gentiles. It's not that you cannot do these things, but if you don't do them, you're heading in the right direction. It's not going to hinder you in any way to not do these things. And then, like we said, Paul's about to take on the Nazarite vow again to prove to anyone whether they're true believers or just nominal, professing but not truly regenerate, that are here in this body, to prove to them that he is still holding to Mosaic laws. So then we have Paul going through that, the purification, and paying out of his own pocket for the men to be purified, which, of course, Paul doesn't balk at, because he's ready to do anything for the Lord. It doesn't bother him in the least that the elders say, hey, just to, as another layer of, you are being genuine about this, we want you to pay for it to be done. Just so that people can't say, oh, well, it was the elders. There's no way that they can speak against him doing this. And so, of course, we're told that this little bit ends with Paul in the temple things are almost wrapped up in terms of all this stuff for the purifications and the sacrifices that are associated with that. When in from stage left come the Jews from Asia, which I know Dr. Sproul says this was very likely, if it does not say outright in other translations, the Jews from Ephesus that were in Jerusalem for Pentecost. And again, Sproul reminds us that, these are the guys that if they, we have the discussion, they may have actually killed Paul, and it was the grace of God that said, no, Paul, you're not done yet. I have more for you to do, after they stoned him and left his body outside of the city. These are the same men, and they sure do act like it. Again, the words of the passage. It's like they're basically throwing themselves on him, like, just so there's no possibility of him running away, and they're stirring up everyone around so that they'll do the same. Again, back when I was thinking that there was more distinction between the rumors about Paul from within the church and then the Ephesian Jews showing up. But the thing is, it's just kind of a step up. These rumors that were being told about him, he's telling diaspora Jews, the Jews that are out there with the Gentiles, teaching against Moses, whereas here in this passage you have these Ephesian Jews crying out, "Men of Israel, help. This is the man who is teaching everyone everywhere against the people, the law, and this place." It is just a massive step up in terms of the accusations leveled against Paul. And like we said, it's because they want to kill him. They're stirring up a lynch mob. That's what this is. And that's why they bring in the bit about Trophimus. They didn't actually see Trophimus in the temple, but they knew Paul was associating with Gentiles. They saw him in the city, and they supposed that he had brought him into the temple, which I say that they bring this in to try and kill Paul because the laws concerning Gentiles in the temple are, there is a court in the temple for the Gentiles. It is one of the outer courts. The actual Jews get to go further in to the temple, and there was a big sign. It was painted on the walls in the court of the Gentiles, "Do not pass this point or you will be executed." And so basically trying to extrapolate on that, Paul brought him in past the court of the Gentiles, which he didn't. That was totally false. But saying he was responsible for it in order to try and, get him killed lawfully.
Because the Romans were okay with that.
Yes.
The rule was there. And it was such an offense to the Jews, the Romans would have said, okay, follow your law, kill him.
Yes.
The Romans trying to, in their own way, please the Jewish faith. They didn't care anything.
Right. That's
But because we know as believers that they didn't have the right to crucify Christ, we tend to think that the Romans were in such control here that they wouldn't let the Jews put somebody to death. But they were letting them. And these signs were posted, like stop signs in the synagogue. You go past this point and you break our rules, we can put you to death, and we will.
mass hysteria.
Trump derangement.
Hmm.
People had Paul derangement.
Hmm.
So fixed on killing him that they would say or do or make up
Anything.
and everything's come together in perfect harmony. You mentioned that it was the peacetime. It was the days of Pentecost, and the place was filled up with devout Jews, overwhelmed with it, worse than New Orleans at Mardi Gras. And it was easy for them to get these people riled up and get a crowd. I mean, sometimes we miss these little things, but it was a mess.
Yeah.
But yet ain't nothing happening outside the providence of God.
Exactly.
It's all of this.
Right. Because again, that gets into the later chapters that I'm covering, but we know that all of this is for Paul to be able to minister and witness to the leadership in Jerusalem and eventually in Rome. So, yeah, and once again, talking about the hand of God, coming in. The city is so stirred up, so wild that the tribune and the cohort with him hears about it. He comes down, brings soldiers in, and says, I think it's interesting to note, says he grabs centurions, plural, which a centurion is a leader of 100 men, so there are multiple hundred soldiers marching through the streets of Jerusalem to come see what's going on with Paul. Yeah. And so the Jews see the Romans coming and they stop beating Paul. Yeah. I've just got an interesting image in my head, and that, like, Paul's on the ground there over top of them, and it's just, and they just dead stop looking at the Romans coming. And then the tribune comes in, tries to assess what's what, see what's, they're violating the peace. This is a riot at this point. And that's, again, why they stopped beating Paul when they saw him coming, because you don't want to violate the peace of Rome. That is their entire thing. They just want to keep things running, business as usual. But then the crowd can't get their story straight. Some people are yelling one thing, some people are yelling another, and since the tribune can't make sense of what the charges actually are, he formally arrests Paul, puts him in chains, and brings him to the barracks. And again, we talked about the people stopped being violent when they saw the Romans coming, but now Paul's getting taken away out of their hands, so they start getting violent again to the point that they have to lift Paul above their heads to keep him away from the crowd so they can't try and basically tear him apart with their bare hands. And so I just noted there that Paul is saved from death by these chains that are put on him, as opposed to the fear that was in his brothers and sisters earlier telling him not to go. It's like, no, you're going to be chained up. They're going to hand you over to the Romans for execution. No, it's here the Romans are actually saving him from death at the hands of the Jews. I will say, of course, the Romans got a hold of Paul. They dragged Paul outside of the temple, which is another thing that is unlawful. There are specific laws against that. I think back to Old Testament with Solomon trying to have someone executed, but he throws himself on the horns of the altar because this man was using it incorrectly to save himself from being justly executed. But yeah, there are laws about, you don't do that kind of violence in the temple.
Well, that's the interesting part, right? Is this is going on. They're in the temple. There is that law in the Old Testament that this violence, this stuff doesn't go on. You don't do that in the temple.
Right.
They're accusing Paul of
while he actively is trying to.
While he's trying to, and they are actively disobeying, which is, I think, what Rodney said when he called it. I mean, it's derangement.
Right.
It's 100%, we want one thing, and that's what I'm focused on. Even the fact that they see the soldiers, they come to their senses for a second, and then it looks like Paul's going to get away, and now we're going to fight with Roman soldiers?
I wonder if Paul, later Paul looks back, certainly at the time he's overwhelmed with all this. This looks like about the same scenario that was going on when Stephen was martyred.
Mhm.
Looks exactly
And
like
Paul
Stephen.
was sitting there, rooting them on.
Yep. Pretty close charges to what they
Same charge,
accused Stephen of.
Mhm.
same
And
charge.
Paul was involved. Yeah, he's got to be looking back on it going, whew, Lord.
God is so good.
Sorry. And then, yeah. And as they're pulling him into the barracks, once they know that they're not going to be able to throttle him personally, they throw out that line that might stick with you. It's just interesting, especially with seeing it multiple times throughout Scripture. Away with him, which is basically, yeah, we can't do it personally, but kill him. We want him to die. Yeah. Which that just made me go back to Jesus saying, if you hate a man in your heart, you've killed him. Yeah, you're not doing it personally, but you want him dead, which is just as bad. And then even as he's in the barracks away from the crowd, he's speaking with the tribune. Just, can I say a word to you? And it's more incorrect assumptions about Paul. It's, wait, you speak Greek? You're not that Egyptian that was leading thousands of assassins, dissenters, terrorists, basically, out into the wilderness. And he's like, no, I'm not Egyptian. I'm a Jew. I'm a Greek Jew from Tarsus, a city that, yeah, it's not. It says in the text, it's not obscure. It's not like this is a borderland province that he's from. It's like, oh yeah, you're Greek, air quotes. It's like, no, he is from somewhere, or yeah, Roman. Sorry, but you're from somewhere established. It's like it should be hard to dispute the fact that you are who you say you are, and you're not this wanted criminal. So it's like, so why are the people acting like this? It's like, and yeah, and then Paul goes, well, if you'll let me go out and talk to them, you might understand a little bit better. I might be injecting a little bit into there, extrapolating a little bit, but that is the gist of it. Paul wants to go back out and speak to the people, and it says when he's given permission, because I'm sure it wasn't just as simple as, hey, let me go back out to that angry mob and talk to them. There's probably a bit of back and forth. It's like, why would you even want to do that? But he does get the permission, and I had debated with myself about going ahead and dipping into 22, but I think it is better to leave that and cover the first part of it on its own. So if anyone else has thoughts, things to discuss, thoughts, comments, complaints, and if not, then we'll go ahead and end a little bit early like last time.
We're fixing to get into Philippians, aren't we? Teaching. I'm reminded of in Philippians, Paul makes after so many deeds of instruction. Hopefully we'll get to teaching better. different is that? Or maybe I should say, how similar is that to the night that Christ was arrested and beaten and dragged through the streets?
Yes. No, Dr. Sproul talks about that, and this was very, very same place, very similar circumstances.
Correct. Watch what you pray for. Paul was praying that he would know that fellowship in the suffering of Christ. It's amazing.
Paul got Roman citizenship because his father made tents for Mark Antony. And Mark Antony with Cleopatra spent time in Ephesus and assassinated her sister in front of the library.
Mm-hmm.
Her sister's buried there today.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could be that Paul, knowing the history, uses that to remind them that the reason I'm a Roman is because we had really close ties to tent makers at the Caesars. And Paul's dad was very influential tent maker. But I want to mention something else to you too as a church, that you have missionaries living hours away from the cities. Ryan and Morgan, right now, they're a 4-hour bullet train away from Ephesus. They live in Galatia. They're moving to Antalya, which is 4 hours away from Tarsus. So there is no reason if you want to see these areas that you can't use them as a hub. And for a few $1,000s, go see Ephesus and Tarsus. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
I'm ready to go. You ready?
I'll drive to Atlanta right now every week. I'll buy clothes in Turkey. Yeah, my clothes is quality. One of the amazing things about this, when you do go to those areas, is you're walking on the road where Paul was born. You're walking by storefronts that one of them was the School of Ceramics. This isn't a joke. It's not like the Book of Mormon where all that stuff's made up. This is real, living world history that Christ has proclaimed his glory through.
And
I just called Kelly that man. He did a great job on that.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm late.
And I know you don't want to get into the next chapter, but needless to say, we got to mention this. He was about to open his mouth and share the gospel
Yes.
at the point of his death, close to death, beaten. He's about to turn around and share the gospel.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And that's why it needs a
Not with us.
that's why it needs a Sunday to itself instead of being tacked on here at the end. So I'll pray for us and we'll get ready for church. Lord, thank you again for another Sunday that you've allowed us into your house. Another week where we get to come back and fellowship and learn and then go back out and share. I ask that you would continue to bless our time together this morning. In your son's name, amen.